So, did you want to talk about the screenshots I sent you?
Yeah, bring it on.
The other day?
Bring it on.
Okay.
I am horribly uninformed, which makes me a perfect person to discuss this.
I am really uninformed too. I am really uninformed as well. So maybe we'll keep this one short-ish. And so my thought is maybe we discuss it now and then we can come back to it better informed people, like a before and after.
Sure.
You know?
Okay.
So I don't know. Do you want to summarize these screenshots?
So, let's see. You were talking to a couple of your friends, and let's see. Should I just go ahead and read the messages?
Yeah, sure. And then
okay,
we can try to summarize it after.
Okay, so I'm not sure. So obviously, I'm only looking at messages that you were sent, nothing else, no context to it. So without context, here are the messages. Yeah, I don't get it. Never has a tyranny used medical science to oppress their peoples. Americans just think not being told what to do is what makes it America. Hitler said, don't smoke and eat organic, but kill the Jews because they're bad. And then one person's a little more extreme than the other, but we'll see. Then the other person said, yeah, I wouldn't argue that a tyranny has used medical science to oppress people, and I certainly wouldn't call America tyrannical. But the religious-like blind reverence that our culture currently gives to mainstream medicine is ridiculous. And the next message, also, have you ever talked to a doctor? They all seem to be the most mainstream consensus-loving idiots. And for the record, you liked that one.
I did.
You liked that message.
Because it's so true. They are really, really consensus
loving. Not all of them.
All of the doctors I know, and the ones who aren't, have a reputation of being timey-wimey, holistic-y, doctor-y people. They're in a different category in people's minds because people don't put them in the same grouping.
Yeah, but to
doctors.
Say that all of them are mainstream, do you mean they all study medicine? Yes, that's correct. Okay, the messages go on. 3 months ago, if you wore a mask, everyone would say, obviously, that's
silly.
Oh, silly. Okay, that's silly. And you're dumb because who said not to wear masks? Now look at us. People get visibly erect when repeating medical facts and prostrating themselves before mainstream medicine. And yes, mainstream medicine is right 95% of the time. But the problem is the religious fervor with which people pleasure themselves when blindly repeating medical facts. That's true. That's true. So he rounded it out towards the end. Right.
So that paragraph right there is probably the most interesting part of this to me.
Okay.
So people get visibly erect when repeating medical facts and prostrating themselves before mainstream medicine. And yes, mainstream medicine is right 95% of the time, but the problem is the religious fervor in which people pleasure themselves when blindly repeating medical facts. So I see that, and I think that's the principles here are applicable in a ton of different fields.
Yeah, that can be said about a lot of different things, and that was my immediate thought when reading that was, well, I agree. There are people who just repeat facts without knowing the background or the context themselves, and like most industries, the majority of the time, the people who work in these industries are well-intentioned. Most doctors are relatively well-intentioned. There's obviously the handful that are in it for the money or whatever else they could be in it for. But I'm not sure. It's a topic just because of what's going on right now. And that was a good point that he talked about where they were talking about how you shouldn't, or not that we shouldn't, but we don't need to wear masks. And you and I had a discussion with someone who was blindly repeating that because who said it?
Yeah. And that's what made me think that was the original reason I had sent this to you, because of that previous conversation.
Right. Which was an interesting conversation because we pulled out all the facts, saying, well, obviously you're not immune to coronavirus when you wear a surgical mask, let's say, because he was saying, oh, well, no point in wearing anything if you're not wearing N95. That's not true. Something is better than nothing. You can make the argument, oh, well, it's not a huge difference, so it's not worth it to me. That's your choice, but there is still a difference,
Definitely.
when wearing something. So that was where, at first America was really off in saying that as a whole, because they were saying, oh, well, if you're not going to wear an N95, just don't even bother.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that really contributed to some of that initial spike that we had.
Mm-hmm.
And then it wasn't until people started freaking out and getting scared, then things started, started not calm down, but we started to become a little more aware.
Yeah, definitely. Can you think of any other ways that these basic principles can be applied? So I guess the principle I'm seeing here is people really enjoy repeating facts spoken by authority figures. And usually that's fine, but there's like a 5% chance that that'll end terribly.
Well, I think the principle here is be informed. Do the research yourself. Check your facts and question what you hear. Just because something is said on the news doesn't mean it's correct. Now, I'm not, encouraging conspiracy theories and saying, oh, nothing is true. Coronavirus isn't real. But I'm saying just, look at it with some common sense. Consider the facts. And 9 times out of 10, I think you'll be okay. Like, we're not scientists, we're not medical professionals, but we've been pretty reasonable. Like I'm saying, you and I, with this whole coronavirus thing, in our area, especially because our county is one of the worst in the state, like one of the top 3.
Mm-hmm.
So, we had to be careful, and, we don't have a choice. So you have to consider the facts. You just have to consider the facts because, like, and people arguing, oh, the flu still kills more people per year. I'm like, that argument is out the window.
It hasn't been a year yet, guys.
Yeah.
Let's wait until there's been a year.
Genius. I'm like, do you see the rate at which not only people are dying, but it's just the main issue was not so much the rate of death. Obviously, that's horrible, but it's just it's because obviously the death rate isn't horrible the chances of death for each person isn't horrible. There's a likelihood you'll survive. But the issue is just the rate at which it spreads. The structures of society aren't built to handle, 75% of the population being sick. They're just not. So that's the issue. The issue is if everyone's sick and let's say 20% are in bad condition, the other 80% are okay, still those 20%, that's going to put a heavy toll on the healthcare system. So that's the issue.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And on top of that, there's the other weird symptoms that Corona has just in my mind immediately like, okay, maybe I'm less likely to die from this than the flu, but I also don't want to have Corona toes.
Yeah, and I don't want to I don't want the possibility of strokes,
or kidney failure.
There's all kinds of stuff they're discovering now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm sure they were attributing some deaths to some of those symptoms of coronavirus that they had yet to link to coronavirus.
They were. In fact, I remember reading that, up until recently, the kidney failure, they were attributing to all the drugs that they were pumping into the people and that was just causing kidney overload. But, now they've realized that no, people, even without getting pumped with drugs, are having their kidneys fail on them. So, how many deaths that were attributed to kidney failure were actually, kidney failure because of other causes are actually Corona causes,
So kind of back to what your friends were saying, at the end of the day, I agree with what he said at the end, that, 95% of the time, you should, consider what your doctor has to say. So, but the issue is you have to be, an informed citizen, and that's tough for everyone because everyone grew up differently. there are varying levels of intelligence that people have, and so
Varying levels of respect for authority.
correct.
You can,
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
you can definitely go in the other. In fact, we've seen people flowing in the opposite direction where they just don't believe Corona exists at all, and that this is a conspiracy to keep us home because that they can plant more pigeons to watch us and government drones and.
I don't see that argument at all, because why would the government want to shut everything down? Like, we're seeing how quickly they're trying to get everything back. So, people are saying, oh, well, the economy, they're trying to slow things down. That the government really doesn't work like that. And I heard even one person say, well, look at the healthcare companies. Look at how they're skyrocketing now. I'm like, so you think the healthcare companies are the ones that engineered or contributed to coronavirus and to this whole situation that we're dealing with? He's like, well, I'm not saying anything, but I'm like, come on, man. Like, really think about that, what you just said. That makes no sense.
I'm not saying that pigeons are government drones, but have you ever seen a baby pigeon?
Have you ever eaten pigeon? Yeah, it makes no sense. So, kind of like what I was saying, that it's important to be informed, because, just an example, if I took every medication that a doctor has given me, I would have taken so much more than I would have needed. One time, a couple of years back, I had kind of an immediate surgery that was unexpected, and afterwards, they had given me Percocet, for dealing with the pain after the surgery. So they had given me quite a bit, but I was still in excruciating pain, and because I thought there was a possibility that I had a blood clot after the surgery. So I was a little worried, because I felt like I was in more pain than I should be. So I just went to the hospital, and, after like 2 hours of waiting, they were like, well, I don't know what to tell you, but here's a prescription for some more heavy pain meds. And I'm like, that's not what I don't want that. That's not why I'm here. They're so used. So I think it's a mixture. I think they're used to people just showing up wanting those meds. And then it's also the insurance side. Obviously they do make money off that, but I don't think that's the full picture. I think there's also just, they're so used to people coming in there, saying whatever they have to say just to get some pain meds. So, and they've probably, unfortunately, just given in. Yeah. And they're like, anytime someone comes in, they're like, oh, well, what do you want?
Well, you don't have any incentive not to give in. Financially, you're rewarded, and it's one less stress to have to deal with.
Because if you fight that person, then what's that going to do for you?
Yeah, I've never taken narcotic ever, and like I've been through, I've been through a couple surgeries, but I've been prescribed tons of narcotics. Fortunately, my body responds pretty well to like the normal stuff, so I've never had to take it. But like, I definitely could have gotten even more narcotics if I wanted to. Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the first day of me on some heavy painkillers, like it was weird. I'm not sure how to describe it, because I forgot what they had given me one time that I was taking, and I would try reading. I was trying to study something, so I was reading some paragraphs and trying to find some answers from those paragraphs, and I had to keep rereading the first line of the paragraph to read the whole thing. I kept rereading. It took me probably an hour just to read that first line, so I'll keep getting distracted, and I'll be like, oh, what's going on? And then I would like, okay, get back into it, come on. And I'll try reading again, and I would doze off. I remember walking downstairs to get something. I forgot what I went downstairs to get. So I walked back upstairs, and I was like, oh, I need to get that. Walk back downstairs. I did that like 3 times.
That happens to me without narcotics. Forget with narcotics.
Yeah, it's no fun. I mean, it's kind of fun if you want to look at it that way, but it's like it's not fun.
You've basically said a few times that like this last paragraph you agree with a lot, and that you like.
Yeah, relatively, yeah.
Okay, what about the rest of it?
So the rest of it being the religious like blind reverence that our culture gives to the medical industry.
Yeah. Do you think our culture gives that much reverence to, maybe medical industry isn't the right word, but to medical authority figures?
I would say it's more of a reference to media, less so much the actual medical industry, but more of how it's portrayed in media, if that makes sense. Because I do believe that people have this obsession with the news and this obsession of, we've seen it now with coronavirus. People constantly wanting to be updated, what's going on. And, like me, I really don't care. I'm just, let me know when quarantine's over. But everyone else, they're really on top of things. Every piece of news they're going insane about. They're spreading it around, and half the time it's just rumor or hearsay. So I think a lot of time it's just wanting not only to have the facts, but wanting to be the one who controls the facts and sends it to people. So I'm not sure if that makes sense.
Yeah. I feel it. Like when I'm the first person to get to send something new and interesting to someone, like I enjoy being the first person to.
Right. We all like being in the know.
Yeah.
So I think it's something to do with the media. And, I'm not someone who's big on watching the news. I'll occasionally read things. I kind of just try to filter things out and just get the important stuff. But I think there is an issue. So, because you could probably apply that to a lot of things. Because our culture has an obsession to a lot of stupid things that other countries don't have. Like, we care about what Hollywood person is doing what, who's getting married to who. I don't know if you've ever watched Good Morning America, but it's brutal. It's like, because half the time it's just pop culture news. And I'm like, this is what people watch in the morning news?
Uh-huh.
So, half the news isn't really news. So I think it's a mixture of a lot of things.
Okay, so you would say it's not as clear cut.
No, definitely not. There's no clear line. It's not just the medical industry. I think it's a mixture of a lot of things, because I think that blind reference people have towards the medical industry is really just a symptom of something else.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say that, like, I think the same kind of behavior you see towards the scientific community just in general. Trying to pick something that won't be too terribly controversial.
Well, isn't that what this show's for? Controversy? Pick one.
True. So
what are you trying to find an example for again?
People being very excited to spread a scientific fact, and then it later on being shown to be not accurate.
I mean, that's very common. Especially, that's kind of the science community in general.
Here's a good one.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. And like, this is going to be controversial in some circles, but it won't. The general audience probably won't feel controversy unless you're from Florida. The Florida panther. All right. Big cat, cougar-like, tannish like a cougar, not that big like a cougar, long tail like a cougar. People, especially in Florida, like to say that the Florida panther is the most endangered mammal in the world. And you'll hear that over and over in different classes. In the world. Because there's only...
I remember hearing that.
Because there's only they estimate, quote unquote, between 50 to 100 specimens left in the wild that are pure Florida panther.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, like, on its own, that sounds like an interesting fact. And like through college, I heard that a lot because, Florida panther is a nice media friendly animal to, like, point your attention at.
Yeah.
So yeah, Florida panthers interbreed perfectly fine with cougars.
Mm-hmm.
Florida panthers also look like cougars. They sound like cougars. They act like cougars. Their babies look like cougar babies. They're the same size as cougars. Did I say that yet? Probably. Do you get the hint I'm trying to get at over here?
That some of the cougars out there are actually Florida panthers?
That Florida panthers are cougars that we decided to call Florida panthers.
Oh. That is controversial.
Yeah. And you know what?
Oh, that's interesting.
And
I'd have to.
And we do this a lot. Like, and in fact, scientific community has acknowledged this by calling the scientific name of the Florida panther. And I'm going to look it up so that I don't say it wrong. Florida panther, Wikipedia. No, I don't want the company. Come on. Do I really have to put Florida panther animal? What the heck? Come on, what is this world coming to?
Come on, they're a hockey team. The hockey team is more popular than the actual panther.
All right. Florida panther. Here it is. Scientific name of the Florida panther is
cougar.
Puma concolor cori. Puma concolor cori. Now, what is the scientific name of a cougar? Puma concolor.
Huh.
So basically, what this means is that they have put Florida panther as a subspecies of panther. So they have acknowledged
of cougar. You mean
of cougar? I'm sorry, of cougar.
Okay.
So they have acknowledged that Florida panther is a cougar.
Mm-hmm.
Yet we're still saying the Florida panther is the most endangered mammal on the planet. Meanwhile, cougars are all over the country. So while I'm not saying that this is a good or bad idea, I am saying it's incorrect.
I feel like I have to do some research on this and then go observe some cougars and panthers.
So I say it's a good idea to do this in this case because it promotes the protection of the Florida panther, which we don't have a lot of. However, I think it would be more accurate to say that we need to protect the cougars that we have in Florida, which we have so lovingly named Florida panthers.
The Florida panther.
Okay, so there are different subspecies, but it's in the same way.
You're the first person I've ever heard say this.
Really?
I've never heard this before.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it.
there are different subspecies, but subspecies is such an arbitrary.
Now you have an associate's degree in environmental science.
Yeah, and I studied 4 years of ecology before I went to college. So it's 6 years of studying. It's just 2 of them are accredited, and the other 4 are not.
So you're more informed than average on this subject.
Yeah,
or just on, being able to figure these things out. You're gonna be better than the average person, for sure.
So just to give it like an example, the black bears in California are gonna be a different subspecies black bear that's in Florida. Like, they're both black bears, but the ones in Florida are a little smaller. Their fur is a little shorter, so we call it a different subspecies.
Okay.
If you wanted to use the same classification measures on like domestic animals, like a German Shepherd is a different subspecies from a Great Dane. We don't use those measures with domestic animals. In fact, for some reason, we've decided to put all dogs as a subspecies of wolf. But that's a different discussion for a different.
Even though the differences of dogs will be arguably more than the Florida panther and the cougar.
Yes, just a little bit more.
Yeah,
but different subspecies. Okay, you know what? Have it. Whatever. That's a different discussion for another day. So, anyways, wrapping that all back to the beginning, we have a fact that's true only because of post-categorization and not really because of, like, a scientist can say all day, yeah, but we have genetic markers. But, like, you could literally come up with genetic markers to draw a line wherever you want to draw the line.
Right.
Like, saying that you have genetic markers.
You could probably create subspecies of humans if you really tried.
You could really, like, if you were to use the same classification systems they used to make subspecies of panthers, you'd have, like, dozens of subspecies of humans. Like, anyways, different discussion there as well. The point here is inconsistency and misrepresentation in the media to fulfill a goal.
So an agenda. Okay.
An agenda. And I kind of agree with this agenda. Like, it's a nice agenda to have. Let's protect the Florida panthers. These cats, by protecting these cats, because they require a lot of land, we protect a lot of other stuff too that also lives there. However, we're kind of misrepresenting the truth when we do it.
Mhm.
But you know, all the kids I went to college with, you know, ate this stuff up. I feel like I was the only one in the corner like, didn't you just tell me this was a subspecies of cougar? What are you saying right now?
You're the one with the tinfoil cap.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tinfoil cap.
You know, that was.
Go ahead.
That reminds me of when you told me. Well, you explained to me how the Triceratops, right, doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And it was really just a juvenile of a different dinosaur, and that blew my mind. I mean, I can't look at dinosaurs the same way anymore. You know, I won't. This is another discussion we can't get into right now, but I am a firm believer that what humanity believes about dinosaurs is like 75% false.
Oh my! You remember learning about Brontosaurus as a kid?
Yeah,
that dinosaur doesn't exist. Completely made up dinosaur. Like someone found bones with, they called it Brontosaurus, and then like 20 years later, someone came back and was like, "Why did you call this a Brontosaurus?" Like there is no dinosaur right now that anyone calls, at least by common name, Brontosaurus. Like that dinosaur that we learned about as a kid, nope.
It's like, you know, obviously 100% dinosaurs existed. Obviously. No question about that. But for someone to sit here and tell me that they have hard facts about some of these dinosaurs, I can't believe it. It's hard to explain.
Okay, so Jurassic Park 3, Spinosaurus. You remember what it looked like, right?
Right, and they made it like huge and more aggressive than the T-Rex.
Yeah. So the hugeness, even by like that time standards, they acknowledged that they made it bigger than what they believed the Spinosaurus to actually be. Mm-hmm. So, you know, they exaggerated the size because they wanted to kill T-Rex. That's all that was about. But anyways, I want you to look up a picture of Spinosaurus.
Okay.
Just type in Spinosaurus and click Google Images.
Spinosaurus images. Okay, so there's a couple where it's kind of big, but there's others where it's on 4 feet.
Mm-hmm.
It's on. What?
Yep.
It's this. Here we go. Here's one with the size comparison. It's pretty small. Not small, but smaller than T-Rex for sure. Or, well, I shouldn't even say compared to T-Rex because everything we know about T-Rex isn't true. So I just meant relative in Jurassic Park. But yeah, no. Here we go. I'm looking at an actual fossil. Here we go.
All right. So are you seeing a 4-legged version?
Yes.
All right. Now, that is the difference in just a couple of years and how they've restructured the entire dinosaur. So now the most scientifically accurate understanding we have now of Spinosaurus is this shape that you're looking at. The 4-legged crocodile-ish shape. Yeah. And I'm looking at a comparison next to, I guess, an average-sized human. And, you know, its head is maybe just a few feet above the human. Mm-hmm. So what we're going to call it, 9 feet tall at the head. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's pretty short compared to, now,
to just a decade before.
I'm going to send you a picture. I'm sending it to you on WhatsApp. If it works. Okay. Did you get that picture with the skeletal structure?
Yes.
Okay, so as you can probably imagine, the change in body structure that they've given is because they found more bones of the dinosaur. Mm-hmm. But even looking at this picture, you see the different color codings. Mm-hmm. Red, green, and yellow. I'm not sure what the yellow is, but red and green are fossils.
Debris?
Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of that. Red and green are the bones we've found of this dinosaur. Yeah. Now, I want you to...
what's missing?
Yeah. Look at the amount of speculation that has gone into the shape of this dinosaur.
This is recent. This is up to 2019.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, the
so wait,
changes...
so you're telling me they've never found all those pieces of the head, the jaw, or anything?
No.
That's all speculation?
Mm-hmm. And before this, they only had the spine and the forearm, a piece of the forearm, and that's why they gave it a 2-legged dinosaur.
You're blowing my mind again. You're telling me that okay, I always knew that they would fill in some gaps.
They fill in a
that was-
lot of gaps when they're doing.
But they're
dinosaurs.
filling in gaps that to an extent that I didn't know was possible, not what possible was, but what was like acceptable to the scientific community.
Think of like any dinosaur you can think of the name of. If you search like bone structure found of that dinosaur, you'll see a chart that shows how many bones of that dinosaur are there and how much of it has been filled in. And you don't use, of course, you won't see this at museums because that won't wow the little kids.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't hear about it because it's not interesting.
So I think I saw like pictures of fossils, like, you know, semi-complete fossils. So that was obviously fake.
What they'll do
those
is
just recreations.
they'll put the real bones in there and then they'll fill in the rest with fake bones that are the same color.
Wow, that's insane.
Mm-hmm. So look at like the
wow.
picture I just sent you. Look at the tail. Look how fat that tail is compared
Yeah.
to what the old Spinosaurus used to look like.
Yeah.
So part of the reason why they've changed the structure so much is because, of course, they found those back leg bones, so they know they're shorter. But also, they have found these huge, wide, spine, I forget what you call them, but the vertebrae in the tail that show that this thing had a massive paddle for a tail. So it couldn't have just been your typical T-Rex shape and have that giant tail and let it be able to swim properly. So, the more bones you have, the better your prediction's going to be. But the fact that we went so many years thinking Spinosaurus was this two-legged dinosaur with massive claws that ran around on its hind legs and just occasionally hung out in the water is disappointing. And frankly, it's not even the paleontologist's fault, because if you were to talk to a paleontologist, they'd be like, "Yeah, we don't really know what they look like. We're speculating."
So who's doing this then?
It's someone between the paleontologist and the person drawing the pictures in our books.
That's interesting. Wow. So, this again is just supporting my conspiracy theory a little more. That like very substantial portion of what we know of dinosaurs is not true. This is probably like one of my more insane theories. I'm not a flat earther. I'm not a we didn't land on the moon person. But I am someone who believes that dinosaurs very possibly could have lived a lot closer to us than 65 million years. Just because of our carbon dating system being not very good. And among other things.
The pictures of dragons in medieval castles.
Well, I'm not saying it all came from something. It came from something. So I'm not sure. That's interesting. Hey guys, this is Levi. I just wanted to say a couple things. First of all, we appreciate you listening to The Mousetrap, and if you want to continue tuning in, please support us any way you can. Whether it's just liking and subscribing, or maybe you can consider donating some cheese and joining our Patreon if that's within your ability. We're on all sorts of platforms: YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more. Please let us know your thoughts by commenting or reaching out to us through our email or subreddit. Alex has a website where you can find our contact info, in addition to more details about all his podcasts. The best way to start a conversation with us will be through the Mousetrap subreddit. If you have something that you'd like to discuss, post it, and if you feel the topic is interesting enough, we may bring it up on the show. Thank you again for tuning in to the Mousetrap.
One of my favorite ones, if I can think of the name of it. In fact, I'm going to look up the name of it real quick so I can show you.
I'm just looking at a picture of the Spinosaurus in Jurassic Park, and I was like, wow, you ripped us off. You ripped us off so bad.
All right, I sent you the scientific name of this animal. I'm going to try to pronounce it. As with most of these animals I read about, I've only ever read them, and I've never heard it said. But it looks like Gigantopithecus blacki. And this is supposed to be an extinct relative of the orangutan.
Yeah, Gigantopithecus blacki. Yeah.
So go ahead and take a look at the Google images for these guys.
Okay. Holy cow.
Big guy, right?
See. I'm seeing a lot of illustrations and, models, but no fossils yet. Let's see.
You'll probably eventually run into some tooth fossils.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, found some teeth.
Okay. So the reason why you haven't found any other fossils is because we've literally based our entire drawings on teeth.
You're joking.
Nope. Teeth found in caves.
Oh my gosh.
Now, again, I can understand their line of reasoning. These teeth look exactly like orangutan teeth, just ginormous. So, maybe it was a giant orangutan thing. And again, I'm sure if you talk to the scientists that found the teeth, they're going to say, maybe it's a giant orangutan thing. But somewhere...
this is supposed to be like the thing from that Jungle Book.
yeah. No, they based it off this guy.
Okay. Interesting.
But, you know, you go to the museum and you see them talking about it, and they've got a stuffed version of this.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that, pictures of that.
Where does it say that you based your entire stuffing on a tooth?
That's insane.
So again, I don't think it's the guys that are finding this stuff. I don't think it's the people that are writing the research papers on the findings. It is someone else down the line.
Yeah, and what reason would there be to do this? Is it because of money?
It's more interesting. Even if it isn't because of money, it's more interesting to talk about.
Yeah. Wow. Just teeth. Yeah, you're right. I'm seeing models where they took some of those fossils, or not fossils, those teeth that they have, and they put it into a mold of what they think the head could have been. And yeah, but it's just like let's say you have a mold of the jaw. You're telling me then you can estimate the entire size of this thing from the jaw? Like,
they're trying to
everything about it?
And again, that's fair. You can try to do that. And it's fair that you can make an estimate on the size. But I don't know if it's fair that you can make a mold of it, put it in a museum, and wow children every day with this mold of a giant ape without accurately representing the facts. I don't know.
That's so weird. Like, they tell us this thing is real, but Bigfoot isn't. I have more videos of Bigfoot than I do of this guy.
If anything like Bigfoot does exist, it's probably this guy.
Yeah. I'm just browsing images now. I'm just flabbergasted. Wow, what else do you have that's like this? This is amazing. I'm learning so much tonight. What else you got? I'm glad this conversation turned this direction. I'm genuinely learning a lot.
Honestly, you could do this with almost any extinct animal. Any animal that's extinct that it's hard to find bones of. So, most animals from the Pliocene, this isn't quite the case because we've got pretty good skeletal structures for mammoths and mastodons and stuff like that. But anything before that, and the occasional ape, I don't know. There's a reason why they speculate that
because
it's
they
hard
eat
to
each
find.
other's bones.
Let's try with
carnivorous.
Let's try with Stegosaurus. Stegosaurus. Let's see. Stegosaurus. Bone. Let's see if we can find a chart that shows which bones were actually found.
Dude, bones found?
Now, Stegosaurus has been around for a long time, so I would be surprised if it was as bad as the Spinosaurus example I showed you.
Do you see? I searched Stegosaurus bones found, and the second image was meet Sophie, the most complete Stegosaurus skeleton ever found.
Oh, let me try it.
Here's another question I have. How, when you find different fossils spread around, so obviously they're not all finding this together, unless this one, they did actually find it all together, but that's unlikely.
Right, but with the example of the Spinosaurus, it's different animals that they found and they've pieced together.
So how are they able to attribute these different fossils to the same dinosaur? That's my question.
I'm not sure. I'm assuming they've got some model that they use to make these attributions, but I don't know what they are. I'm not finding a good graphic that shows. Maybe Stegosaurus is very complete. And
I think it is. So I'm looking at one of where they laid them out at where is this? London Museum. It's this live science rare Stegosaurus skeleton debut at London Museum. The fossils are splayed out on the ground on like a white sheet of some sort.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
That looks relatively
That looks pretty
close
complete.
to complete. Yeah.
Is it though, or did they put in
Let me look at
the
it.
empty? You know, that looks a little too complete to me. I don't know.
Okay, I pulled up the website. Finding a near-complete Stegosaurus skeleton is unusual, said Paul Barrett, lead dinosaur researcher at the museum. So I'm assuming that
It's near complete.
it is near-complete.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it says the new specimen hailed from the American West. Discovered the Stegosaurus in spring 2003 at the Red Canyon Ranch in Wyoming. The skeleton was almost fully connected. It was missing only the left arm and the base of its tail, and took 3 weeks to excavate.
Okay. I see a left arm in this picture.
Yeah, I do too.
I see a complete tail as well.
That is correct. Yes. So they're filling in some gaps there.
Yeah.
But I'll give them this one.
This is enough to at least know the correct shape. This is not as bad as Spinosaurus was. How did we get on this topic? How does this tie back to the main point?
It all so I think we got in this direction because we were talking about what is factual and what's presented as factual and what people will run with. So with the example of dinosaurs that,
Spinosaurus is this big bad clawed dinosaur, and everyone just ran with it because it was more interesting.
Yeah. People are taking these theories and are presenting them as facts when there's still a lot of it is still theoretical. Now, obviously, a scientist will respond to that with, well, in order to become a theory, we have to have quite a bit of facts to back it up and to establish that it's a scientific theory. And sure, you have observations, obviously, but you still shouldn't walk around preaching some of these theories as facts. So this all ties in back to, I think, what we were saying before, that take things for what they are. Don't make huge conclusions based off a small number of facts. And don't, as Sherlock Holmes would say, don't make your facts suit theories instead of your theories suiting facts.
Yeah.
So I think that's something I always try to keep in mind. Don't form a conclusion and look for the facts that only support your conclusion. Which, the scientific community will claim that they're looking at both sides of the coin, but
if you're being fair, like, the scientific community is a group of people, so someone is looking at the other side of the coin. That's the problem. Is are you the consumer of the media hearing both sides of the coin?
Right. Are you just listening to the ones? Yeah.
Are both sides of the coin being communicated to you? And if they are you actually listening?
Yeah, I think that a lot of it is interpretation, where people will hear something and not only want it to be true, but people want to believe things. At the core of it, people want to believe certain things to make themselves feel better or for whatever reason it may be. So, people, it made them feel better, like with coronavirus, when WHO said, keep living your life, don't worry about wearing a mask. People were like, oh, great, cool. It doesn't affect me. Cool. They just liked how it sounded, and someone in a state of authority said it, so they ran with it and didn't fact check it. So I think that's what it comes down to. You have to be willing to sacrifice either your pride or, something that you might like, to look at the facts and say, okay, coronavirus is a problem, and even if it may not be a problem for me, it may be a problem for someone else, and I'm contributing to that problem if I don't wear a mask, or if I'm, out and about doing stuff like normal.
Also, when someone or when an entity is giving you information, it might be good to at least
consider the possibility.
Consider the possibility that they have filled in some blanks themselves before handing you a nice, complete skeleton. You know?
Yeah, a skeleton of a statement. Some gaps have been filled of the actual facts. Okay. Yeah, that's a nice way of saying it. Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm drawing some connections and some lines where I shouldn't be, but like, it's easy in my mind to compare Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus to like month 2 of Corona, where we were like, oh, it's only in China. Oh, it's just a normal flu. Oh, we'll find a vaccine soon. Oh, if you've got antibodies, you're fine. And then compare 2019 Spinosaurus to us now, where we're like, oh my God, Corona toes. Oh my God, I've been home for 4 weeks and counting. And the fact is, our current Spinosaurus is still missing a bunch of bones.
Yeah.
So what are we missing?
Right.
You know, we think we think we have all the facts now, but if you look a little closer, we realize we still don't even know if antibodies are good or bad, or if they do anything at all.
That's the scary part, is that, you know, the economy and society as a whole right now is so quick to jump back to normal, but there's still so much we don't know. There are still people catching it again. There are still people getting these wacky symptoms, and we're just saying, okay, let's just hop on back out there, you know, start opening the beaches.
Yeah.
Let's go for it. I don't see it.
I still haven't even heard confirmation whether or not this thing came from a bat or a pangolin. Every time I read an article, it's talking about the opposite animal as the last article I read. Like, who do I go to find out? I don't know. Do I go to who? They told me not to wear masks. I don't know.
You have to go to Wuhan.
Yeah, right? Go to the meat market myself and find out. What are y'all selling over here? That's the other thing. Did you read the article about how it might not have come from the meat market at all? It might have come from some caves, from some scientists that were sent in by the Chinese government?
Yes, I was about to ask you, what is your take on the conspiracy theory that this was an engineered virus by the Chinese government and they were testing it in Wuhan?
I don't even know, man. Like, how would you know? You know, like,
it's China, so you would never know.
Right.
Yeah.
I have heard some of the evidence of like patient zero being this scientist lady who they have scrubbed her name from everything, and then they tried to convince everyone that she was fine, but no one has seen her. So the Chinese government scrubbed her name from all their files. She's been MIA, and they're saying she's fine.
She's fine. She's at home.
She's home. She's fine. We erased her from our collective memory, but she's fine. We promise. That sounds fishy to me. But
I mean, I don't know what to make
China
of it.
being fishy is nothing new. Like,
No. So, you know, regardless of how it started, I only care about what's relative to us, you know, here. So that with that being, you know, us just taking precautions where we have to, just, you know, and I'm in the fortunate position. The issue is I have been affected by this disease a lot less than some others. I'm very fortunate, and me and my family, we haven't lost our jobs. So, you know, I don't have the same incentive that someone else would have to jump back out and start working again. So I completely openly recognize that. So I can see why someone would want to run back out there and go back to their job and everything. But, you know, you have to just look at the greater good. And, you know, humans don't like doing things for the greater good. When it comes down to it, we know that. So it's tough. It's a tough situation. You know, it's easy to say from our perspective because we're affected less. But when you have someone close to you die from coronavirus, then it hits home, and then you care. So it's just perspective. So you just kind of have to look at the facts, and the probability of it spiking again with everybody going back out there is pretty high.
It's,
you know, considering.
I would put a lot of money on it, especially in the States. I don't know.
Especially in Florida.
Like, especially in Florida. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Florida's
I was in
horrible.
Home Depot today and like no one was wearing a mask at all.
Oh,
I was the only one in there with a mask.
yeah.
None
I
of
had
the
to go
workers
to
were wearing a mask. No one.
I like 3 times throughout coronavirus. I've had to go to the post office, and every time I've gone, it's brutal because the lines are already ridiculous at the post office during normal times. But now people are home and they're shipping stuff, because I don't know what they're doing. But I'm selling stuff on eBay like more than ever because I guess people are buying stuff online more, and they got those Corona checks. So I'm pretty positive that I took one dude's entire Corona check. He spent like $1,200 on my eBay stuff. Just one guy. Like legit. I think it came out to like $1,200. So wow. I think I took his check. So this dude bought a ton of action figures from me.
That's amazing.
But, so I had to go there and it was just brutal. And I was looking around. I'm like, these are the idiots. And I'm one of them, I guess, being there. But at least I have a mask on and I'm keeping my distance. But other people weren't. They were just on top of each other. And someone got kind of close to me. And I just kind of gave this little look. I'm like, do you mind? And there was like, it was like an older person. I'm like, aren't you the one who should care? Like, mm-hmm. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it. I don't think I ever will get it. And it literally just hit me today. This was going to sound ignorant, but it hit me just today that this is going to be in history books,
Yes.
This is a momentous time because for so many reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But I never really thought about that, that people are going to be studying what went on now. And they're going to say, look at how these people reacted. They were at home writing memes to make themselves feel better.
It's true because while we have a historical record of the Spanish flu, we didn't have the internet during the Spanish flu to record our every single thought as a collective society.
Now there's direct evidence of what people were thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because people were tweeting and, posting everything they thought.
All people will have to do in 50 years is scroll back on Twitter and see what everyone had to say.
That's going to be interesting. If we're still around, Twitter's still around in 50 years, how that's all going to be implemented.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how far back you'll be able to go.
True. It's
interesting. Fun times.
Yeah. All right. Any closing thoughts?
I learned a lot about not only dinosaurs, but about Florida panthers tonight.
If any ecologist, especially any ecologist in Florida, hears this, I'm going to get an angry email. I can already feel it coming.
You know what? Bring it on. That will make my day. It won't make my week, but it'll make my day if you got an angry email. And I will love... You know what? If someone's listening to this and you disagree with what we're saying, please write it in. Please send us an email. We will respond to it on air right now.
If it's interesting, I will read it out loud. So make sure it's interesting.
Yeah, don't just bash.
Yeah. No, it's got to be interesting.
Bring up some points, provide some sources.
I like being proved
wrong, and I'd love to consider it.
But I like arguing even more. So. Don't.
I know. I know. We're gonna get a good argument on here eventually.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
You just have to hit the right topic.
It's true. I think this was an incredibly non-controversial episode.
Yeah.
I was expecting
we kept it pretty general.
I was expecting us to disagree more than we did, I think.
Well, that was the reason why I told you beforehand, with this conversation was we generally agree that because we're pretty. On this subject, at least, we're pretty reasonable that, most people are trying to spread the truth, relatively. There's going to be the bad few, but, for the most part, people are okay.
I think most misinformation comes from people who are trying to spread the truth and just not doing it
very well.
Very well.
Or, I don't know. The news is still a problem. They're trying to get attention, obviously, and they're trying to get viewership, and they're going to repeat the same things over and over and over again throughout the day. But and then they'll tease you with little pieces of information. So they'll be like, oh, we know this, but we might be finding out about this. Tune in 20 minutes and we'll give you that piece of information.
Yeah, yeah.
So, that's why I don't watch the news. Yeah, that's why I'm going to bunker up in my undisclosed bunker. And I'll go off the grid. But I'll have an internet connection, so I won't be off the grid completely.
That's like the opposite of off the grid. That's not how off the grid works.
It's off the first person interaction grid.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to deal with other people in person. I can deal with them on the internet. I can deal with internet trolls, but I can't deal with real life stupid people. I can act like the people on the internet don't actually exist. That's all just a computer writing this stuff. And I'm like, oh no one actually said that. But when someone says it to my face, I'm just like, wow, you're pretty dumb. So that's the life of a genius. The life of a genius.
Yeah, that's what it is. Genius. All right, cool. Well, this is the Mousetrap.
And that's the cheese.